Well, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to the Schwind Outdoors YouTube channel. Thank you for tuning in again this week. So this weekend, I'm not going to be fishing. It's a little bit too windy for that. It's blowing about 20 miles an hour, and it has been all weekend. Of course, Friday was perfect when I was working, and then Saturday morning, it was just gusting like crazy. So I'm going to stay in this weekend. So what I've decided to do instead is to create a video showing y'all some of my favorite fishing spots in the area. You know, we've got spring break just around the corner, and I figure a lot of you are probably going to be coming down here to do some kayak fishing or some wade fishing, or some of the locals are going to be getting out looking for some new spots to fish. So I wanted to share some of my favorite spots that I've really explored over the last 5 or 6 years. All right, let's get into it. All of the spots that I'm going to show you today are in the Port Aransas, Padre Island, Corpus Christi area. So if you're staying in Port Aransas, Corpus Christi, this is definitely going to be the video for you. I think the northernmost spot that I show you is going to be right up in here, and the southernmost spot is down in here. The first place that I want to talk about is Wilson's Cut or Shamrock Cove. You'll hear them called the same thing. When people say Wilson's Cut or Shamrock Cove, they're talking about this area in here. All right, Wilson's Cut is actually this cut right here. And then Shamrock Cove is this whole area in here. All right, this is an excellent kayak fishing spot. It's not so good for wade fishing. You have to get across Wilson's Cut here to get back into all these flats, and this is a deep cut. Wouldn't be particularly easy to cross on foot. So this is for all you kayak fishermen. Okay, accessibility to the place. You used to be able to come in right down this road. They would always keep this gate open. But in the last year or so, maybe a couple of years, they've started closing the gate because you had all kinds of people coming through here and tearing up the road, which is really a shame. You used to be able to come up here and park way up here and then just hop in your kayak and cut right across here and get into these flats. But now, because they closed that gate, you have to launch right here. Okay. So, coming down 361, what you're looking for are these big condos. This will be your landmark. When you see these condos, get ready to hang a left. You can turn left right here or here. That is, if you're coming from Corpus. If you're coming from Port Aransas, it'll be a right. And these roads are always pretty good. I'd say that in a car, you probably have a pretty good chance of getting down these roads, but definitely in a truck, you'll be safe. So you'll come right down this road, launch your kayak right here, and paddle on down the cut. You can hang a right into this flat right here and start fishing as you cruise through. You know, fish these cuts between these islands, especially on a moving tide. But let me show you some of my favorite spots in the area. Now, Wilson's Cut and Shamrock Cove, it's an area that I could spend an entire video on talking about. There's so much to fish here. There's so many islands. So much structure, so much grass. You could really spend a solid week fishing the area and still not cover it all. So I'm just going to point out a few of my favorite spots here. What I like to do is come through this cut, back through here, fishing it all the way, and then I come back over here to this exposed beach right here. This is a shell beach that's right on this deep channel. And what I like to do is cast either a soft plastic or even a topwater in some cases out into this deep water, and you can usually tear up the trout, especially in late spring, early summer. That seems to be the best time for me. Okay, and then around the corner here, this grass in here, you can come out here with your live shrimp on a popping cork or soft plastic and get into the redfish. I've caught some really nice redfish in this grass before. So if you've got an afternoon and one place to try, I would highly recommend coming over here. It gives you all kinds of diversity. You get a deep channel, you get a shallow sand flat, you get some grass, and you've even got this shell beach here to work along. All right, and then right down the channel here, you get this cut right here. I have caught some really nice redfish right here, and right here. So This area right here offers a lot of diversity. If you've got a little longer than an afternoon to kill, you can always paddle back here to what they call Pink Shack Cove, and you'll know it's called Pink Shack Cove because one of these houses is actually pink. Similar situation here. You've got a deep channel surrounded by shallow flats with grass. I've caught my personal best trout right over here. I caught a 27-inch trout right here. And then you can always come up to this flat and just drift it with your soft plastic. Throw on a gulp mullet underneath a popping cork and drift this flat right here, and you'll definitely get into the reds. The next spot I want to talk about is Fish Pass. Fish Pass is one that I've been fishing for a long time, and it's definitely hit or miss, but I will say I've had my best day on the saltwater ever at Fish Pass, and I'll tell you about that here in just a second. So accessibility, the road, it's hit or miss. It depends on if it's rained recently or not. If it has recently rained, then right in here, the road can get chewed up pretty bad. If it hasn't rained in a while, you can usually get down here in a car, definitely a truck, but use your best judgment. You know, it might be one of those spots where you pull in and decide that you need to turn around. But if you can get through here, then your next obstacle is going to be this gut right here. You see there's this little gut, and on a high tide, this can actually get pretty deep. I've crossed it on a high tide in my Tundra, and it does fine. It definitely gets some parts underneath the truck wet. So if you cross it, I definitely suggest you go get a car wash shortly after so you don't have that salt water on the underside of your car. But lately, you can see on the map here, people have kind of started making their own path around that gut. Now, I've taken this path a couple times. Again, if it's dry, you can get through it, no problem. If it's wet, you will likely get stuck right in here. I almost got my truck stuck right here. So Fish Pass is one of those. If it hasn't rained recently, you should be fine. If it has, I wouldn't even mess with it. Anyways, once you get past this gut, you're pretty much free all the way to the end here. So I would drive all the way to the end to here. All right, you see how there's some cars parked right here? Well, on a low tide, you can get your vehicle out there, and it's real sandy, and it's kind of cool, and people go out there and they take their barbecue pits and let their kids run around, and it's kind of neat. The problem with that is the tide can move very quickly in here, and as soon as it starts to come up, this little island here goes underwater, and I have seen cars get stuck on this island and have to cross through water that was way too deep for their vehicles to be crossing. So what I would do is just park out here, you know, where you know it's dry and stays dry. Just park up here and you'll be fine. Now, this is a pretty neat area. It offers quite a bit of diversity as well. I'm going to tell you one little secret of mine, and that is you can put in your kayak or you can wade. It's not a fun wade, but I've done it before. And you cross Fish Pass right here. If you have a kayak, it's just a short little paddle across. If you're going to wade, you're going to have to come out here into some shallow stuff, cross, and walk all the way back around, which it's doable. I've done it. It just takes a little time. But once you get over here, you can beach your kayak right here and then wade out to this drop-off where you see this grass. And if you take a live shrimp and fish it on the bottom, or probably even something like a down south lure or whatever soft plastic paddle tail of your choice is, and cast it right along this drop-off, I have caught 22 redfish in less than 2 hours. And I'm talking slot reds. They weren't little dinks. I caught 22 slot reds in less than 2 hours right here. That's probably the best day I've ever had on the saltwater. And that particular day, I was fishing live shrimp on the bottom. So rig up something like a Carolina rig, put a live shrimp on there, and cast it along this drop-off. And if they're in there, they will tear it up, and you'll have a great day. So that is my little go-to secret, you know. If they're not hitting it, you can always come out here to kind of this hole right here and cast either top water or your down south lure, and you'll get into the trout. I've never caught just a monster trout in here, but, you know, decent 15, 16-inch trout All right, as far as getting there from 361, if you're coming from Corpus Christi, you're going to cross a number of these little bridges that cross over these passes. And there used to be signs before each one that let you know which bridge it was. Like, for example, right in here, there used to be a sign that said Fish Pass, but I believe Hurricane Harvey took them out and the city has not replaced them. So pay attention to these bridges at least. They'll be good landmarks. And as soon as you cross that bridge, man, put on your left blinker because this is a pretty dangerous road. For whatever reason, people like to get right up behind you and ride real close to you. So giving them plenty of warning that you're about to make a left turn is definitely in your favor. So put on that left blinker and get ready to make a fairly quick left turn onto a dirt road right here. All right, the next spot is Dead Man's Hole. At least that's what I've been calling it. I think Dead Man's Hole is actually further out here somewhere else, but if you check out the forums and talk to locals, this is typically referred to as Dead Man's Hole. You can see right here, it's a relatively deep hole surrounded by pretty shallow flats. If you're coming from Corpus Christi, a landmark to tell you that you've passed it at least is this Methodist church right here. It's pretty prominent. It's hard to miss. If you pass that coming from Corpus Christi, you've gone too far because the place to park is this little road right here. It's a nice little pull off. I think it's like a bird observatory is what it was originally built for, but it makes an excellent parking spot and kayak launch. So what you can do is come out here, park your car right here, and launch your kayak easily from anywhere around here. And for you wade fishermen, this is also an excellent wade fishing spot. You'll hit a little mud here and there, but you can get to some nice firm bottom that's nice to wade on. So what I like to do is launch my kayak or wade out this direction. And if you see here, there's an electrical pole right here. And this one, you'll see it out there. You know, it's the second one in the water from the island. Head out towards this electrical pole and it kind of marks this drop off for you. So what I usually do is I come out to the right of this pole, somewhere in here, and slowly walk up to the edge here. Now, this spot has a lot of stingrays. I've seen plenty of stingrays in it, so if you are wade fishing or if you get out of your kayak, make sure you're wearing some stingray boots. And what I've done in the past is I'll chunk out a live shrimp on the bottom and usually tear up the black drum. This is kind of my black drum hole. I've caught a few trout and a few redfish in here, but 9 times out of 10, I'm catching black drum in this hole. So definitely, if you want to hook into a black drum, go out there with some live shrimp, even some dead shrimp, throw it on the bottom or under a popping cork, and you're likely to get into them. Again, watch out for stingrays. There also used to be a resident dolphin that hung out in this hole. It was kind of cool to see, but it also kind of messed up the fishing if you showed up. I haven't been out there in several months, so I don't know if that dolphin is still hanging out or not, but just FYI, you might see him. Here is another fun spot to fish. This is Kate's Hole. Kate's Hole. I think they actually call this area out here Kate's Hole, but I also refer to this area in here as Kate's Hole. Now, accessibility. This is going to be another one of those bridges you cross. This is Corpus Christi Pass. I think half of the sign is still standing on this one after the hurricane. So watch out for Corpus Christi Pass if you're coming from Corpus, and be ready to make a quick left turn off of 361 right in here. All right, this road can get nasty. I really don't recommend coming down here in a car. You can make it. I've seen cars down there before, but really a truck with four-wheel drive is your best bet. If the tide is low and this stretch right here is looking bad, which it usually is, you can take a left right here. There's a little puddle right here that holds water, but it's a real firm sandy bottom. I've never seen anyone get stuck in this little puddle right here, but it almost always holds water. So you can drive through that, drive around here, and if the tide's low enough, you can get through here just fine. And usually this route is nice and smooth with no concerns of getting stuck. I'd even say that a car can oftentimes make it down this route. But if the tide's high and a lot of that is underwater, then you have to take this high road. And right here, it can get nasty. So if it's recently rained, I wouldn't even attempt it. I have seen lots and lots of people get stuck. I'll admit, I've even been stuck twice back here. If it's dry, you should have no problem. But you come up, you follow this road, and you'll come right over here to where it says Corpus Pass Launch Point. And you can park anywhere in here, and then you can launch your kayak or wade. This is an excellent wade fishing spot. This is all nice sandy bottom. Although I will say, if you come south down into this area, you can see where it gets a little darker. This is all really muddy, so it's not quite as nice to wade. You'll sink up to your knees in mud down here. But if you stay at this little point right here, north, then it should be nice, firm, sandy bottom for you. So what I like to do is I come out here and I cross over this point, and I'll walk right up here to this edge. And you'll know it's the edge. It drops off pretty dramatically. And again, cast out your soft plastics, your dead shrimp, and you should get into some decent redfish. You can walk this entire drop off up here and keep moving it until you find the fish. And if you really want to get adventurous and the tide allows it, you can drive all the way around here. I definitely recommend a four-wheel drive if you're going to do this because the sand gets very loose. But you can drive back here, and there's a deep little hole back in here that not a lot of people know about. I have pulled out some very nice redfish right here in this little hole. And I've pulled out some really nice trout back along here. So if you're waiting, you can walk it. It's not too far of a walk. It'll take you a little time to get there, but not too much time. And if you've got a four-wheel drive vehicle and the conditions allow for it, you can drive back there. But this is a neat spot. It's pretty isolated. You rarely see anybody back here, and the fishing can be good, especially if you're wade fishing, because this is all shallow up in here, and it just makes for a really neat experience. All right, and lastly, I want to talk about Bird Island Basin in Padre Island National Seashore. Now, if you come down to Padre Island National Seashore, which I highly recommend you do, it is a neat park. Make sure to stop at the visitor center, check it out. Now, I think it's $20 per vehicle. At least that's what it used to be. You can also get a year-long pass for, I think, $30. Don't quote me on those prices. They might have changed since last time I purchased a pass. But also, if you are active duty military or a veteran, you can get in for free. You just need to show some kind of identification of your military status, whether you have that little icon on your driver's license, or maybe your DD-214, or your actual military ID, or sometimes I've been places where they'll even accept a good military tattoo. All right, then you can park in here and launch your kayak right in here. Or if you're wade fishing, you'll see right back here behind the restroom, there's a little trail that's been worn. You can follow this trail. I wouldn't follow the shoreline down here because it gets really muddy and you'll sink up to your knees in this mud. But follow this trail all the way back here and it takes you to a really nice sandy shoreline. I mean, look at the size of this sand flat. Now, I'm going to give you one more little secret. If you walk north on this shoreline, somewhere in here, I don't think you can see it on the satellite imagery. It's a little too small. I don't remember if it's before or after this cut, but there's a couple little shrubs. They're the tallest thing in the area, so you'll see them. But two little shrubs that are my landmark. I walk to those. Let's say they're right here. I'm not sure if they are, but they're somewhere in this area. I walk to those, and then I immediately walk out into the bay. And I'll walk this sand flat until I hit this grass line / drop off. And that has been my spot to catch the trout. Now, I've never caught just monster trout out here. I've seen some monster trout, but I've never caught one. Usually it's your good 15, 16-inch trout. So good keeper-sized trout. Walk out here with your top water, with your mirror lure, something like that, or your soft plastic, and cast it out over this grass off of this drop-off and just work this drop-off back and forth until you find them. Once you find them, you're usually on them. You can continue to stay in that spot and catch fish pretty consistently. But just walk up and down this shoreline, this drop-off, until you find fish. This is a great spot to bring the family, to bring kids. It's an easy wade. You're not going to get your vehicle stuck. It's tempting to hang a left right here and come down to this windsurfing area. It looks similar. Big sand flat, nice, well-defined grass line. I have fished this several times, and I have never caught a fish over here. Not to say that it can't be done. I'm sure there's plenty of fish that have been caught over here, but I, for one, have never caught a fish over here. Or if I just come right up here, I catch them almost every time. Summertime fishing, if you come out here in the heat of the summer, bring your mosquito repellent. It gets terrible out here. This is probably the worst mosquitoes I've ever seen is out here. Early spring, here in the next 2 or 3 weeks, hopefully the mosquitoes aren't an issue, but I would have some just in case. All right, guys. Well, those are some of my favorite spots in the Corpus Christi, Port Aransas area. Some great wade fishing, some excellent kayak fishing. So if you're coming down here for spring break and want to get out and have a real shot at catching some nice redfish and trout, some flounder, some black drum, definitely check out some of these places. If you have any questions about them, feel free to leave me a comment. I'll keep up with it. I'll check it every day. If you have a question about any of these spots, shoot me a comment and I'll respond and hopefully give you the answer. I'm going to put the coordinates to each of these spots in the description below. So if you decide you want to go check one out, just look in the description, find the coordinates to the spot you want to check out and plug it into your phone and you should be good to go. As always, thank y'all so much for tuning in today. If you haven't subscribed already, go ahead and click that subscribe button. I put out videos every Tuesday. With that said, y'all have a great day and we'll see you next time.